All right, everyone. Welcome to the PWCC Weekly Live Vintage Card Auctions. We are here building collections, not portfolios. I'm Rob Gerard, your sports card therapist. And very soon, in about 10 minutes, I'm going to have friend of the show, Matthew, who is at 1956 Tops Guy, on with me for the first hour. So definitely looking forward to that and having Matthew on. I'm proud to say that this show is brought to you in partnership with PWCC, so a major shout out to them and their staff. And as we do each week, we are focusing primarily on sports cards that are from 1979 and older. So that's the T206s, the Cracker Jack cards, the Gaudy sets, the play ball sets, the first ever Bowman and top sets, and everything in between. Don't forget, you have 1 hour before the real show begins. That's when you got to get those bids in because that's when the timers start. So, also, feel free to stick around for the final 15 minutes of the show. We usually go 2 hours where, we're just going to be talking hobby stuff. I say we, I mean me. It's going to be me tonight. So hopefully, some of you guys will be here with me chatting. But if you cannot watch the whole stream or you miss us a week, don't worry. All the streams get saved to the Sports Card Therapist YouTube page. So those will be there. Also, if there's a card that you want us to pull up so that you can discuss it, just mention it in the comments and we will make sure to pull it up and discuss it. So welcome. I see Steven, Sports MD card collector in the house. He says, good evening, gentlemen. Good evening to you, Steve Areno. July 16th, 2023 right now here on the East Coast in Connecticut. It was storming like crazy. I heard that flights from the Dallas card show were postponed, were rerouted, were canceled, all that stuff. So just had on if you tuned in right before this for the hour prior to the going live here, I had on Dave at Extraordinary Cards. He set up at Dallas. He's going to be setting up at the National. We were just talking about Dallas, talking about really just working in that high end market and whatnot. So that's kind of what we're doing here, right? I mean, we're not maybe working in so much of the high end. There are some high end cards, but also what we like to do is we like to highlight some of the low to mid end cards that might be a play, like really might be a good deal. And we'll talk price, we'll talk cards, we'll evaluate the cards, all that good stuff. And maybe it's a card that you can add to your collection. So with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the screen right now and we are going to start checking out some of these cards that are up for auction tonight that we are going to be looking at. So let's see. All right, here we go. All right, so it looks like we have a couple cards from the sets that we were checking out over the last couple weeks that are still making their way here, that are still kind of coming out. This is the 1878 Forbes Company, and this card is called Twist. This is a SGC2 sitting at 130. We have a 1878 Huntley and Palmer's Sports Baseball PSA 3. And that is sitting at 550 right now. Oh man, talk about, some really old, cool looking cards. Right here we have the 1882 Cossack and Company Batsman, and this is graded a PSA authentic altered. But look at this card. 86 bucks. $86 right now, and this is the Batsman. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. And now we have an old Judge card. We have an 1887 and 172 old Judge Fred Knopf bat horizontal. This is a CSG 1.5. This right now is sitting at $115. A nice old Judge card. Look at that. I love it. I mean, we have some great looking older cards here. We have an 1888 RNS Artistic Series Baseball, and this is just the Baltimore. This is just the Baltimore team right here, and this is a PSA 6 that's sitting at 125 right now. We have a 1909 T204 Ramley Peaches Graham. and that is sitting at right now, sitting at 115. Let's get into some of these T206s. We have a T206 Frank Chance batting SGC4 sitting at 525. We have a T206 Sam Crawford with bat, the polar bear back, and that's a PSA 2 that's sitting at exactly 200 right now. We have the Johnny Evers Portrait PSA 3 sitting at 725. It's a nice looking 3 right there. And it's an old slab, old label, all that stuff, and it almost looks undergraded. At least from here, I have not taken a look at the back yet, but from the front, from the eye appeal standpoint, definitely looks undergraded. And usually when I see these older slabs, I tend to kind of assume it's going to be overgraded. So, this is a great looking 3, though. We have a T206 Chief Myers Old Mill back PSA 6.5 sitting at 1,400 right now. 1,400. That's a great looking card. T206 Charlie O'Leary Portrait PSA 8. Pop 1 of 2. None higher. 3,100. Wow. It's one of the nicest looking T206s I've ever seen. Unbelievable. We have a T206 Joe Tinker bat off shoulder SGC 5 sitting at 700, and this has the PWCC certified eye appeal rating top 30%. Don't forget, guys, we're going to be going back and looking at all these. Matt should be on momentarily, so I'm just going through the first page so far just to see some of the highlights that we're looking at. We have a 1932 Bulgaria sport photo, Babe Ruth and Max Schmeling. PSA 6, this is sitting at 600 right now. 1947 exhibits, Hank Aaron, PSA 2 with the mark. This is at $42. I don't see too many Hank Aarons of the exhibits pop up. I feel like I see Jackie Robinson's all the time, but Hank Aaron's I don't see as much of. 1948 Johnny Mize, PSA 6 sitting at 140 right now. Pretty decent centering for a 48 Bowman. 49 Bowman Pee Wee Reese, PSA 4 sitting at 240. Man, look at this red background. I mean, it's the same, red background as the Jackie Robinson, but looks great. Looks incredible. Fielding a ball. I love how you can see the ball right there too, about to go into the glove. Looks great. We have a 1949 Bowman Robin Roberts, PSA 4. And this is a PWCC certified top 15% eye appeal for the PSA 4. This is sitting at 340 right now. We have a 51 Bowman Roy Campanella. We have a nice Campy right here, one of the greatest catcher cards of all time. And I think you probably hear people say this a lot, but I mean, just one of the best images you could have ever gotten from Campy. It's him throwing off the catcher's mask and going up, looking up for that pop out. It just looks incredible. It just looks incredible. Look at this. You have the one lone guy kind of photo bombing in the background. But yeah, great looking card. Great looking card. We have a 51 Bowman Mickey Mantle PSA 1 4,500. It clearly has a hole right there. As many 51 Bowmans are, this is a bit off-centered. It doesn't have a qualifier, though. I'm kind of surprised that this did not get a qualifier. And this is a new slab and a new grade as well. So I could imagine, I don't know. I'm surprised this didn't get an off-center qualifier. I mean, it's got barely anything, but you still can see the border. And I think when it comes to 51 Bowman, that they're probably considering the set more than the actual card. I could be wrong with that, but because 51 Bowmans are so often miscut and off center, they might have, let them get away with not getting a qualifier there. We have a 52 Topps Yogi Berra. This is raw, and this is sitting at 105 right now, but really decent centering from what it looks like. I know this NBA certified authentic sticker kind of ruins you from being able to see the full top of the card, but it looks like it's really good centering for a 52 Topps. We have a couple 53 Topps Jackie Robinsons right here. We have a PSA 1.5 and a PSA 3. And if you look at this, I mean, the PSA 1.5 is not far behind the PSA 3. And you know what it comes down to? It comes down to the centering. Because when you look at the card, the PSA 3 clearly has a richer color to it, right? The color is just, it's a better looking picture. Whereas the PSA 1.5 is definitely faded. It's definitely, that you could see the coloring is not nearly as rich. It's not nearly as crisp. However, when you look at the centering, that's really what you're getting from these two comps right here. So it looks like people are staying away from the PSA 3, I think, as much as you would think, kind of, and surprisingly. But I mean, not surprisingly, I mean, when you look at the eye appeal. So uh more 53 tops. We have a gorgeous Mickey Mantle right here. We have a Mickey Mantle PSA 2, and this is sitting at 2600. We have a 53 top Satchel Paige. This is sitting at 1200. Arguably one of the greatest cards of all time is this 53 Satchel Paige. So I'm sure Matt and I will definitely talk more about this. So I'm going to scroll up to the top real quick. All right, so we're going to scroll up to the top. And here is my man, Matthew.
How's it going, Rob?
Matthew, how are you doing, man? Welcome back to the show. It has not been the same without you. It has not been the same.
It's good to be back. It's fun. It'll be a great time. Been looking forward to this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Good to see you. No, it's you were a regular on the show. You were on almost weekly, and you stepped away, but Adam's been doing incredible. Jonah's been doing incredible. So either way, I definitely have some of the best people in the hobby, in my opinion, coming on. But it's definitely great to see you back.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've always been, even when I wasn't, on the show, whenever I could, I was, lurking around in the comments. It's always fun to, get into these discussions about, these vintage cards, which we hold so dearly, right? And all of them have such fun stories.
And I tell you what, too, it's always great to see your name popping up in the comments and getting your opinions on things. And it's good, man. It's good to have you. And you were part of my the Instagram vintage showcase that I was able to host on Instagram Friday night.
Yesterday.
Oh, it was last night, Saturday night. Okay. So yeah. So you were able to come on there and show off a couple incredible cards. So Mookie Chilson says, I have missed 56 Tops guy. Yeah, so
Mookie.
so you were able to show off a couple cards last night. So it was great to be able to see you, and and definitely getting really pumped up for the national. Before we jump into this, because I know you only have about an hour, so you're going to have to be off by the time we can formally really have a conversation. Tell me about what your national is gearing up to maybe look like this time around.
Yeah, so this is my first national, so I'm preparing.
How is that possible?
I know, right? It's made even stupider when you realize, like, I'm from near Chicago. Like, when I'm going to the national, I'm actually going to just stay with my mom. So like, I even have a place to stay. So it's even worse than that. I mean, I don't know. To be honest with you, like I think of you, Rob, and especially Ken, right? You guys are like big card show guys. You guys you guys get like so much feeling about the hobby from attending shows. And for me, I'm actually not that big of a card show kind of guy. Like, I think I'm just like a slower paced collector, right? So for me, like, I think of the internet as like a 24/7 card show. It's annoying because you got to kind of keep checking all these different places all the time to see what pops up. But it's just like a little bit easier for me to be strategic. And so, in a card show situation, I'm just nervous that I'm going to just be like, I'm just going to go crazy and, just buy a bunch of cards that I don't want. So the thing is, I've kind of like, in terms of getting cards, I think I have pretty low expectations. Like, there's some special Cubs cards and some other stuff that I'm looking for, but nothing like really big. And which is good. It's kind of a good feeling to go in, like, not looking for something big. Like, I feel like most of the pressure that I'm putting on myself is I just want to make sure I just meet all the people that I talk to all the time, right, over Instagram. And that I'm really, really looking forward to. I think that's going to be a blast. Like when I went to the Burbank show and I got my mantle, I was all strategic about which cards I was bringing and all this stuff. This time I might be bringing a few cards with me, but I'm mostly there to just like kind of like soak it in. And enjoy the show, see a bunch of cool cards, talk to a lot of fun people. I am picking up 2 cards that I've already purchased. Um, one of which is
Really?
one of which is a custom art card that you actually slid into my DMs on. So I'm really excited to get that one. And then another one is a Hank Aaron rookie that I bought a couple weeks ago that I'm going to be picking up. So that's my big card but I've already bought it. So
That's
yeah.
unbelievable. No, that's awesome, man. And I think, if you are planning on, going to the national and you are on social media and you do have the capability of making some of these deals, that is the way to do it. If you can set up deals ahead of time, I mean, it's because I think when you talk to a lot of people that, go to national either regularly or they've been there before, I don't think it's any coincidence that people typically say, like, it's actually about the people more than the cards. Like, it really is about the people, because it's about the cards 364, it feels like.
Mhm.
So at the national, and not to say that throughout the year we're not really soaking in the community aspect too, because I think that's why we're all here, right? But yeah, I mean, it's really the people. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. So I'm so glad to hear that you're going. I'm shocked to hear, especially you being local, at
Mhm.
least to the Chicago area. I'm shocked to hear that it's your first one.
Yeah, it's always like, I think part of it is like to be honest with you, my history of being at card shows is mostly a little bit disappointing. Like I feel like the card shows I was at as a kid were always disappointing because I never could afford the cards I wanted. And then as I got older, like when I would go, so I used to live in the DC area and I would go to the Chantilly show, which was a pretty big show.
Oh, it's a big show, yeah.
Yeah, this would have been around maybe like 2008, 2010. And I mean, it's a big show, but there weren't that many people there because, this is well pre-pandemic. And I just remember looking for 1956 Topps cards there, and people's asks were just astronomical compared to what I could get them online for. And I'm just not a savvy negotiator. Like I think I just stink at that. So like usually I don't really actually have that much fun at card shows unless I'm going there with people and like sharing the experience and seeing
Yeah.
all the cards and swapping stories. So that's what I'm mostly focusing on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, if it's okay with you, I would love to jump into this auction to
Let's
see
do
what
it.
we are looking at. So Mookie Chilson had said that he definitely misses you. A collector's dream says, check out the 51 mantle with the hole in it. He was telling Mookie, yeah, I mean, that thing could go for, I mean, with buyer's premium, it's over 5K now. It's around 6, but that could go for right in that 6K range. I wouldn't be surprised about that. Steven Sports MD Card Collector says, I've lived and grew up in Chicago, and this is my first national. Wow. Holy smokes. Let's go, guys. This is like a therapy group right here. You guys have needed this is your intervention, okay, for both of you guys. Wow. All right. So we're going to jump in to check out some of these
Here we
cards.
go.
So we're looking at some T206s right here. And Matthew, just stop me, jump in if at any point you want to
Let's
jump in and say something, because I'm not necessarily looking at the screen. I'm
hmm,
not looking at you, I'm looking at, yeah, you
yeah.
know how we go.
Yeah.
So
Let's talk about these two.
okay, yeah. So first one we're looking at is Frank Chance. Frank
Yeah.
Chance, he's a New York Yankee. So Chicago orphan, Chicago Cubs guy, New York Yankees for the final 2 years. But yeah, let's talk about him.
Yeah, so I mean, I think there are a lot of collectors, and I'm one of them, who when they look at T206, like getting all of the Cubs from T206 is a pretty cool goal. And right, and Tinker, Evers, and Chance, and Mordecai Brown, those are the big four, right? And one thing I think that's cool to think about, especially with the Tinker, Evers, and Chance, and the Cubs of that time, is that like one collecting like project I had in mind actually at one point was to have a set of like the Cubs World Series team from 2016 and then the Cubs World Series team from 1909,
Wow.
because those would be those are the two most recent Cubs championship teams, right? And so I spent a while looking for my Tinker, Evers, and Chance from T206, and it's cool because each of them was a pretty popular player, so there are multiple poses of them within the set. And this Frank Chance example is super nice. Obviously, it's got the eye appeal sticker E, and I mean you can see like people talk about the Hannes Wagner as being, why T206 is a big deal. But when you're a card collector and you're looking into vintage, it's easy to gain an appreciation for T206 even beyond how famous the Hannes Wagner is, right? Because like
Yeah.
look how beautiful these cards are. You get like this amazing like color illustration, right, of these like action images that just look amazing. And the fact that they're as old as they were and using the print capabilities that they have, you can see why these cards like strike such a chord with collectors to this day. And you can see this example of the chance is super nice. I love how you can see the Chicago that's
I
on
know.
the
Yeah.
part of his jersey that's going down, right? You've got like the old school cap. And you can also see that, me being like a kind of a registration nerd, right? You can see that the registration on that example is really sharp, right? The image is super clear. So I think this is going to be one that we might see go a little bit later into the evening, especially with that clean SGC holder. Just, beautiful looking card.
I mean, it's a great looking card. I mean, it's so nice. I get to the point where I'm like, those edges and corners look a little too good. Those things look incredible. You
They
know,
do
like
look really nice.
when I think of T206, I mean, this is typically like what I think about, right? I think about the Sam Crawford. Here we
Mhm.
are, Sam Crawford PSA 2. It's sitting at 200. You know, this thing is it's a little high and to the right, right? I think centering is probably, at least right to left, closer to 70-30, maybe even
Mhm.
75-25. It's got some scuffs on it. It's got a little bit of dirt. You can see it's lived a little. It
Mhm.
didn't just stay in the house its whole life. It went out and enjoyed life, and
Had
it
some
was it
beers.
was getting
Yeah, yeah.
passed around, went to parties, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, kind of thing, but still looks really good.
Yeah.
So I love the Sam Crawford right here, with the polar bear back. Um,
Yeah. I mean, it's cool because I'm actually on a pretty big Sam Crawford kick right now. So, one of the challenges of collecting these older players is that you can't go onto YouTube and like see highlights of them play, right? But one thing that's cool about Sam Crawford is he was really extensively featured in a book called In the Glory of Their Times, which is one of the best books about dead ball era players. And
wow.
it's basically this guy in the 60s, right around the time, right after Ty Cobb died. This guy decided, hey, like all of these old players have such great stories. I'm going to drive around the country and interview all these guys and get their stories. So you can actually go onto YouTube and you can hear Sam Crawford telling stories about what it was like playing baseball with Ty Cobb at near the turn of the century. And this guy, he's the all-time major league leader in triples. He was one of the first big home run hitters of
Home run too.
baseball.
He was a
Yeah, yeah.
two-time home run leader.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And you can hear him talk about like in the conversation with the author, he's talking about how cool, how good he thinks Willie Mays is, right? He's talking about like how natural it is for these guys to play the game and how different the game is between when these guys are playing it and when he was like hopping on wagon trains and going from different towns in Nebraska playing, barnstorming style baseball. And
Yeah.
so I actually, one card I do want to get at the National is a Cracker Jack Sam Crawford, which is
Wow.
probably going to set me back. But I think he's such a cool guy, and the fact that he's featured in these key sets makes him a really collectible player. And like that's a card I have my eye on in this particular auction.
Wow. I mean, incredible story. Thank you for covering all that. And what's the name of the book that you were talking about?
In the Glory of Their Times, and
In the
there's
Glory.
Yeah, in the glory of their times. And there's an audio accompaniment that has the recorded conversations of him with Sam Crawford, him with a lot of the other players of the era. It's a super cool book. It's really awesome.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's I'm definitely gonna check that out. Definitely gonna check that out. And it's his own voice, you're saying, right? It's
Yeah,
his own
it's a
voice that
recording of his conversation in his own voice. So like you don't get that with a lot of these players, right? And I think that's one thing that makes it really special, that's a way to connect to them even if you can't see highlights of them play. And I'm a nerd, right? And I like the history. I love hearing these guys tell the stories in their own words about what the game was like then. He told these awesome stories about, what it was like playing with Ty Cobb and like how how they would do crazy stuff where like he was on third, Cobb would get walked and then they would do this thing where, like, they would be trying to set up to do a double steal, and just like really cool stories. I
Whoa.
don't have time to get into it, but it's so awesome, man. It's very cool hearing those stories.
Oh, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. So we have get some more comments. Mookie says that I love those pinhole cards. They're victims of love. Troy in the house. Troy says, "Welcome back, Matthew. Is Matthew bringing any cards to trade for a whale or a grail at National?"
It's a great question, and no, I'm not. So I have the advantage of, like, I kind of think of the Hank Aaron rookie. That's a really big deal card for me. So I've already paid for it. So I know I'll be going to National and getting a card, but without the stress of having to find it. I've already found it. I just have to pick it up. So that's the only real big deal that I know I'm doing. But if someone has a Crackerjack Sam Crawford, I'm gonna be looking for you.
Oh, that's beautiful. A collector's dream in the house says Sam Crawford was an awesome player, and there's recordings of Ty Cobb also. Larry Gitlin, Larry, how you doing, man? He says the glory of their times by Lawrence Ritter, the best. The recordings are fantastic. All
Yep,
right,
that's what
I
I'm talking
love it,
about.
man. Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, so let's keep it going. So, next, we have the Johnny Evers portrait, and that's a PSA 3. And then we have the Chief Myers with the Old Mill back. This is a PSA 6.5.
Wow,
And this is
wow.
a pop 1 of 1 with none graded higher. This is sitting at 1,400 right now. None graded higher. So that means that if you are building a PSA T206 set with the PSA registry, this is the highest ever set that you will that can be made at this moment is a PSA 6.5, because this would be the set buster right here, right? If this is the oldest, if this is the highest graded one, there's a
Yeah,
pop 1 of 1.
what's not clear to me is it the highest graded Chief Myers overall or highest graded Old Mill back? So that is not
Ooh, so you
obvious to
think they're
me.
playing? You think they're going back to what we were talking about?
Hmm.
We were literally just talking about this, weren't we, the other day in the DMs?
Yeah, yeah,
About people's trickery, and we're not saying that this post
yeah, yeah.
that this listing is saying it's trickery, but the way that some people will kind of mess with the pop reports to make their card seem
Mhm.
more appealing.
Yeah, but if you were doing an OM back set, right, just
Definitely.
collecting all the OMs, then this is definitely your guy. The other thing I would say is, even pop count aside, I think, Collector's Dreams pointing out that it is the Old
Yeah.
Mill back. That's where the
Thank
pop
you,
comes from.
Orlando. Thank you.
Look at the color depth of that red, right? Isn't that just, I mean, for a card that was printed so long ago, it's so cool. It's
I
a
know.
beautiful card.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love that.
without a doubt. And yeah, with I mean Chief Myers, I mean definitely one, in my opinion, one of the big names from the T206 set, one of the just the, I played for the New York Giants, played for the Boston Braves his final season. But yeah, just one of these guys, primary catcher for Maddie, for Christy
Yeah.
Matheson.
Oh,
And
man, so
you
cool.
know, and Chief Myers hit over 300 for 3 straight years, and won 3 straight National League pennants with the Giants. So, this guy he's had quite a career. Imagine being the primary catcher for Christy Matheson, arguably a top 5 pitcher of all time.
Yeah, that's super cool, and, like, those Giants teams back in those days were just, they were the beasts, right? They were
Yeah.
the monsters, right? It's like people like to think about how, like, good the Yankees are, and but in those times, right, the Giants, they were the dominant team.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the Evers too. That's a cool card. I mean, he's like a really feisty character in baseball history. He's
Yeah.
like really small but pretty nasty. I think, yeah, played a big role in the Merkel's boner thing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I love this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
These cards are amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Being able to look back at some of these and uh yeah. So Evers, he played his first part of his career with the Orphans/Cubs, right?
I think that's right. I mean, yeah, I mean, he was definitely part of the Tinker Evers Chance group. The infield there, the famous double play infield. But I think he spent most of his time. I know that Chance came back and maybe did some coaching with the Cubs, but I don't remember if Evers did. He was kind of an ornery, pretty ornery person.
Yeah. Well, Evers, I want to say, played for like 25 years. He played for like a quarter century as a player, and I think he was a player manager, throughout maybe one or two of those years. But yeah, I mean, the card itself, though, like you're saying, the card itself, it's a great looking card, great looking PSA 3. And I had said before you came on that I thought this, arguably, just looking at the front from Eye Appeal, could be undergraded.
Yeah, that's a card that would, anybody would be happy to show off in their collection. And for me, T206 is so interesting because you also have these choices between the action images with the sunsets and the pretty backgrounds versus the portraits. And the portraits are really cool because when everyone thinks of T206, they think of the Wagner, and the Wagner is a portrait, right?
Yeah.
But then you've also got all of the action shots. So it's such a huge set to explore with so many cool players, and like that's a card that I would be really proud to have in my collection for sure.
And I mean, like you're saying, the set is huge.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
And I think it's for that reason that you don't see, I don't want to just make something up, but I feel like you don't see a ton of new people jumping in to start set collecting and set building T206 cards. It can be a very expensive thing.
I feel like it's the thing that, as it's kind of like when people start collecting, they usually collect the players of the era that they grew up in. And then eventually they maybe start to lean towards vintage, and they think about their parents and their grandparents and who they rooted for. And I feel like eventually, and then you're kind of on the road to Mickey Mantle and Jackie Robinson. And then you're like, I'm not going to collect tobacco cards, but one day you're just going to not be able to resist the temptation of picking one of them up. And then that's when you end up being one of these people who become, a road to 520 kind of person. I think it's like just a maturation of collecting, right? But I think it is daunting from a new collector perspective. But I think one way and one road to it is kind of how I took it, which was like, I'm going to collect like the best players from my favorite team because I just want to have some T206 cards in my collection. And that's how I ended up with Tinker Evers Chance and Mordecai Brown.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing that I ran into too with collecting, I'm a born and raised diehard Yankees fan, and the Yankees, their first season as being named the Yankees, I want to say 1913, I want to say, was something like that. And before that, they were the Highlanders.
That's right.
So it's like, I don't know. I think that's probably part of the reason why I haven't jumped right into collecting the T206. And I guess I'm curious to what people's opinions are on that. If just go for it. It was the same team. All they did was change names. Or, yeah, no, I get it. So I don't know. It's like,
Yeah.
Moving forward, the Washington football team, the Commanders, are there going to be, fans, 100 years from now? They're like, no, I don't really collect any of the Redskins stuff, and I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing about cards, though, is like you get to make up your own checklist.
I know.
Nobody can tell you what to do. And so, like, if you're just like, yeah, screw screw the Highlanders, only a Yankees collector, then go for it. But I think I think for me, it's like, yeah, it's all about the images. What do they convey? Do their stories connect with me in a way that makes me appreciate them even more?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So moving along, we have a T206 Charlie O'Leary portrait, PSA 8, top
Jeez.
1 of 2, none graded higher.
This
Look
is
at this thing.
Yeah, and this is one of the old holders, so it doesn't even have the back labeled on it.
Yeah.
Right, it just says T206.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
incredible.
something nuts about O'Leary is, he was a player, coach, went back to I think he came back for one season. I want to say in 34 as a player, and
Jeez.
just, didn't do a ton as far as statistics go, but was a good shortstop for the Tigers. And I mean, I think really when it comes to this card, you got to figure people are buying it for what? Who do you think the buyer is? Who's the buyer pool for this specific Charlie O'Leary card?
I gotta think it's set registry T206 collectors. It's gotta be because I mean you're really ponying up for a really high grade. I mean, obviously it looks beautiful, but you've got to have some, what's the motivation to go
Yeah.
for a card that of such high grade that's so old? It's either like, I'm a huge Charlie O'Leary fan, but I have to bet it's a T206 registry person.
Yeah. And I'm thinking so too. I'm thinking someone is building that set and
Hmm.
um but talk about a high grade, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
think I'm used to seeing really high grade, especially recently, really high grade basketball cards, 69 tops, 70 tops, 71 breaking records, but I mean, this right here, I mean, this could break the all-time record for a Charlie O'Leary card
yeah.
tonight.
Absolutely. Like that's one that you can see going well into extended, right? Because there's going to be a few people they're trying to, boost their grade point average in the registry, and this is one way to do it.
Have you ever gotten caught up in that? Have you ever signed up
Well,
or
the thing
registered?
is, yeah, I mean, so I actually I am on the registry. I've got my 56 Tops Hall of Fame set. I've got an Ernie Banks run that's on there. I've got a few other ones. My whole thing is that because I'm an eye appeal collector, I don't really care that much about like the numerical grade. So like it'll say like, "Oh, I've got like the 26th best Ernie Banks set." And my attitude is kind of like, "Oh yeah, let me see what the eye appeal looks like of the people that are ahead of me." And it's kind of like I kind of have like a little bit of like, you ain't my dad. You can't tell me which card's better than another card. It's because of the grade. So I mean, I'm on it, but I don't. It doesn't really impact my grading or my collecting habits.
So you've gotten sucked into the PSA hype beast.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I would say that I have cards that are on there because I think it's
How
fun to
often do
see.
you look? How often do you log in to look at the registry?
That's the thing. I think I'm out of date by at least 6 months from the cards. I have like my 52 mantle. I don't think is even in my registry yet. So
Okay, so
that
you
shows you
haven't been
like my
sucked in that
level.
much then.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um,
I kind of
oh,
wanted to see what it was like, but it never really sunk its teeth into me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So James Wynn, and I hope I'm saying your name right. James says orphans, let's go. He also says, can you show us the custom card you are getting on your phone, please? Do you have it? Can you pull it up?
I don't have it. Well, I do have it on my phone, but I kind of promised the guy that I'm getting it from that like we would do some stuff with it at the national.
Oh
So
man,
I'm
that's
gonna
so
not steal
cool.
the thunder from him.
No, absolutely. Listen, man, I can't wait. I got an idea when he initially posted it of the progress he made and what it looked like. That's why I immediately sent it to you. I'm like, this is nuts. And I would love to talk with you off air about just try to get an idea of what you paid for it because I
Sure.
mean, listen, I would love to do a mantle. I would
Hmm.
love to do a mantle, and I've never invested any money in any what's the right word for it? Card art?
Yeah, card art, custom card art. Yeah.
I feel like almost calling it card art almost ignores the fact that it is a legit auto
Yeah.
that costs big money.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like, so I almost feel like it deserves, or I don't know. I can't speak for the
Yeah,
card art community, but
it's kind of like a custom art relic card kind of a thing. I don't know. I mean, I think yeah, we can have a whole conversation about that. I'd love to talk more about that for sure because
well,
it was a fun purchase for sure.
yeah, yeah. And I think that I can't speak for the community as a whole, but it feels like the community still has not really bought into the whole card art thing, and I think, um, and I get it because I don't think I have either. I've been gifted a
Mhm.
few really incredible pieces of card art, which really helps sway me. But I think like, okay, if I didn't have the podcast or if I didn't have the show, I probably wouldn't have been gifted those items.
Mhm.
And if I wasn't gifted those items, I would probably think absolutely nothing of card art. So the only reason why I think what I think is because I actually own a piece now,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But the work that goes into it and the beauty is incredible. It's almost like light years ahead of what card companies are doing.
Yeah, it's super interesting because, of course, most of them are like custom pieces. So there isn't like a commoditization aspect of them where, like, oh, I can just go onto eBay and figure out how much that thing costs, right? So it's different. It's a different market than it is for kind of normal cards. But I feel like, especially in the cases for, retired players or deceased players, it's a different situation because you've got like tops, right? Tops will come out with like, you know, cut autos, right? Well, they'll like cut a piece of paper that Mickey Mantle signed and insert it into a card.
Yeah.
How is that different than a not like an individual human being, like an artist, doing the same thing with the card? And for me, like I could look at, okay, how much does a Topps Dynasty cut auto of Mickey Mantle go for versus a custom art card? And I think about how much time was invested in the design of that individual card, and I can tell you with certainty that the guy who did the custom art spent more time on it than Topps did, in their cut auto. So for me, I kind of think of it in that playing field, especially if it contains a cut autograph that is exactly the same as like what you would get for like a Topps kind of card. That's how I think of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, does it come like certified?
So actually, so I when I bought the card, he was like, I can send it to Beckett and they'll authenticate the autograph. But I actually preferred it raw because, okay, so I'll get, yeah, the cat out of the bag in the sense it's Ernie Banks. That's who signed it. I know what Ernie Banks' signature looks like. I'm confident looking at it that it's Ernie Banks' signature, and I kind of don't need Beckett to tell me that it's Ernie Banks' signature. The other thing was is I didn't want it in one of those big like it's a foldable card. So like I was afraid that like Beckett was gonna put it in some like magazine holder and then they'd be walking around this big piece of plastic for the small thing.
Probably.
So I was like, I don't want that. I prefer it raw.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So, yeah, no, really cool stuff, man. Really cool stuff. All right. So moving on. Listen, we're gonna have you back on when you get it because I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
a lot of people watching now are gonna want to see it. So Orlando says that speaking of the T206, he says the set is called the Monster.
Yep.
Hoo-wee! The Monster.
Yep. It's the monster that comes for everybody.
Man. All right, so let's look at this Joe Tinker right here. This is a beautiful Joe Tinker, bat off shoulder, eye appeal rating, top 30%, SGC 5, sitting currently at 775 right now. When you see this, when you think of Joe Tinker, does anything just like immediately jump out to you as far as anything?
So the big thing that I always think about is like the Tinkers to Evers to Chance poem, right? That's
Mm,
what kind of made them that trio of players famous. So that's always what I think of when I think of Tinker or Evers or Chance is that that they were in that poem about like how they're going to make your team pay because they're always going to find a way to get your players out. So that's always what I think of. And actually, this is the card of Tinker that I have because I really do generally prefer the action shots to the portraits. I just like the sunset, like that yellow kind of color in the
oh, I like
background.
the action shots. I'm team action shot all day when it comes to T206.
Yeah, like I get it. There's some like the Walter Johnson is one where I prefer the portrait, but overall I mostly prefer the action ones. And because I just like thinking about, especially like when you show them with they're holding the bat, really high up and you can see they're really choking up on it. I just love seeing that kind of like era appropriate like attire and the way the game was played. That comes across more in the action shots. And
Yeah.
that's a really pretty card.
Yeah, without a doubt. And he won two World Series with the Cubs, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah, I
they
think
were
that's
part
right.
of that like you were talking about, that real big that Cubs dominance.
Yeah, they were amazing in that time frame, followed by a century of not being amazing.
But Then followed again by a nice little World Series, right? So nothing wrong there. Nothing wrong there. Let's see. So moving on, we're
Oh
jumping right
man,
to the 1932 Bulgaria sport photo. Babe Ruth and Max Schmeling. PSA 6 sitting at 600 right now. 600.
that's cool. It's cool because you've got Ruth in his full like Yankees jersey,
I
which
like him
is
in the
really cool.
uniform.
Yeah, me too. It makes it feel more like a baseball card
Yeah,
with him in the
agreed.
uniform.
Agreed. Yeah. But PSA 6 sitting here at 600. So, it's not it's definitely a lower tier Babe Ruth type card, but
Mhm.
regardless, it's a 32, it's a playing year image, a playing year release of Babe Ruth.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too is like people always think about, oh, Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, like these cards are like impossible for me to pay, they're too expensive. But there are a lot of cases like this where, there are accessible issues that are even playing era cards, right? They might not be the most famous ones, but it's still a Babe Ruth.
Yeah. Yeah. And moving along, so we're jumping leaps and bounds. I mean, we
Yeah,
went from T206 and
all the
we
way.
have a single 32 Babe Ruth image, and then we're jumping to 47, and this is the 47 to 66 exhibits,
Mhm.
obviously, because Hank Aaron's rookie year wasn't until 54.
Yep.
But we have a Hank Aaron exhibits PSA 2 just sitting at a meager $49 right now. Beautiful image of Hammer and Hank.
Yeah. I I have one exhibit in my collection, but I feel like the exhibit images of Hank Aaron, Ted Williams, and Joe DiMaggio are some of the ones that really stick out of my mind as the real exceptional images from those sets. And I love Hammer and Hank. I love his story so much. I've really been binging a lot recently on like kind of stories of the Negro Leagues
Mm.
as presented by Bob Kendricks, who's the president of the Negro League Museum in Kansas City, and they've got they talk about all these pictures of Hank Aaron. He only played in the Negro Leagues for like 6 weeks because that's how good he was. Like everyone was like, yeah, this guy's going to be out of here in like just, a really short time because he's that good. And what's cool about that image is you can see it's a very young Hank Aaron, and it reminds me of that era of Hank Aaron. When he was still right around 20 years old and, just coming to the league.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's and I think that's why, just in general, people get so excited about prospects, right? Like in modern day, people get so excited about prospects because sometimes you just know.
Mhm.
Like a Hank Aaron, like you said, played in the Negro Leagues for 6 weeks, and immediately they're like, boom, we're gonna move him up.
Yeah, we gotta get him. Yeah,
You
exactly. And
know,
yeah. And it's
yeah,
exciting. It's also exciting to like, this captures like a different era of baseball. Just the image, the fact that it's like the sepia toned image. It's really pretty. And for
yeah.
$50, like why not, right? It's
I know,
awesome.
I know, and it makes me think about what it says on the back of the 52 Tops mantle that you showed during our Instagram showcase, right? And weren't they immediately um comparing him with DiMaggio?
Yeah. They said that he was like DiMaggio's heir apparent.
Oh my god, could you
Yeah,
like,
I
your
know.
second year, your first to second year in the majors, and
Yeah.
that's what's being printed on the back of your baseball card. And anytime something like that happens, I mean, if you could even come close to those expectations, it's like a borderline miracle.
Yeah.
I think
It is.
you have to be a different kind of animal to be able to really block out everyone telling you how wonderful you are.
Yeah, and then you gotta keep that, like, drive to keep going, right? Because you've got all these people telling you that you're awesome, but they also have these crazy expectations of you. It's just it's amazing that some of these guys pull up.
Yeah, yeah. And James says that Ellie
Yeah.
De La Cruz, who is obviously the new big prospect, right? Who everyone
Mhm,
is. I tell you, it's hard not to get caught up in the hype of like a prospect, like we're talking about with Hank Aaron and
mhm.
Mantle. But when it's your own team, it's really hard to not get caught up in it. I think
Yeah.
about last year when, when we called up Anthony Volpe
Mhm.
on the Yankees, and man, let me tell you, I was pricing out his cards like crazy because I'm like this. I tell my wife's a diehard Yankees fan too, and I'm like,
Mhm.
this guy is going to be the next Jeter. He's the guy. He is
Mhm.
the guy. And then our first Yankee game of the season that we went to this year. He gets hit by a pitch, steals second, third, and home. It was like, oh my god. So it's hard not to get caught up in that kind of hype, but
Yeah, yeah. It's
but
funny though, but you think back to, like I think about when I was a kid, right? I remember, like, Matt Noakes. I remember, like,
oh
Todd
man,
Van Poppel. I
yeah,
remember
yeah, yeah.
all these dudes. What was it? Ben McDonald,
You
right? And
remember
then
that draft pick card of 10-bit Todd Van Poppel?
mhm.
It
Oh, yeah,
was
the
like the
score
yellow or
draft
the
pick card.
orange card.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Him pitching. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
In Chicago, the guy was Jerome Walton, right? He was the rookie of the year in '89, and he just faded so fast. So, like, I just these days, I temper all of my expectations
I
on
know.
prospects.
But when it's your team, it's
I
hard
know, it's
not to.
different. Yeah.
You want really something to believe in. But yeah, like you're saying, Matt Noakes, in the early to mid '90s, we had Kevin Mass, who
Kevin
there was just
Mauch.
a ton of hype around Kevin Mass. He came in and for about 2 weeks, just I think hit like 5 home runs, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden he just disappeared.
Yeah,
Jabba
so many
Chamberlain, when
players.
we had Jabba, as our pitcher, it was like so.
Brian
You get
Taylor. There's, like, an
yep,
endless list, man. There's an endless list. But it is really exciting when you see, like, De La Cruz, like, stealing home and throwing, like, 96 miles an hour across the diamond. I mean, it's
yeah.
fun to get excited about that. Whether that means you should put a bunch of money into Bowman Chrome rookies, maybe that's a different story.
Yeah, yeah. So Mookie is in the house, and we have people commenting on some of our busted prospects. He said, "I remember when Bernie and Gerald Williams came up. I thought Gerald would be the star. Wrong, Mookie. Let me tell you, man. I have this really cool Bernie Williams PC that I've continued to build. I have a bunch of like flawless, you know, uh, game worn jerseys. I have some gold refractors, and I never. He's one of these guys because I just, everyone loved Bernie, Yankees
Mhm.
fans, and when it came to like the core four, and he was never included in the core four,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was like it was just such a travesty that Bernie has just never gotten the recognition. But yeah, but he performs a lot around here with his band and stuff. So
Yeah, yeah, he plays
yeah, so
guitar, right?
he's always around. He's in the New York area all the time. Um so guys, we have 2 minutes left before the bidding actually start, or should I say that the auction actually starts. So definitely, if you're watching those cards, you might want to go back to check under my bids and see what you had favorited, all that good stuff. I was actually just doing it for a minute when Matthew was over here talking. So Orlando says Brian Taylor of the Yankees, and you had just said that.
Yeah, yeah.
Richard Price, Richard, how you doing, man? He says Kevin Moss with an exclamation point, and James says Van Poppel, LOL. So I think Van Poppel, his cards, I want to say they were 92, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I
I
just
think I remember the scorecard with the orange and it
Yep,
said, like, top draft pick or
yep,
whatever.
yep.
That's the card I remember.
Me too. Yeah.
Ben McDonald, I think, was 1990 Upper Deck was his card. That's the one that everybody wanted.
Mm.
Yeah, I remember that stuff like yesterday, man. It's like I can't remember half the things I should remember, but I can remember Ben McDonald's rookie
Oh,
card.
I know. Your wife's like, Matthew, I cannot believe you forgot to pick that up on the way home from work. You're like, I forgot. I was thinking
Yeah,
about Ben McDonald. What do you want from me? She's like,
exactly.
we needed that for vacation. Now we're screwed. You're like, sorry. All right. So moving along, I know you're out of here in 15 minutes, Matthew. So let's try to knock out some stuff, man. It's great
Mm,
talking with you, though. I gotta be honest.
yeah, super
Um,
fun.
yeah, man. So we have 48 Bowman Johnny Mize PSA 6 sitting at 150. We have a 49 Pee Wee Reese PSA 4 sitting
Oh,
at
man,
240.
that's a pretty card.
It
Yeah,
is.
and
Yeah.
yeah, Pee-wee. And Pee-wee, has that cool connection to Jackie.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I know. And Jackie too with you think of the 49 Bowman, you immediately think of the Jackie with the rich red background. I mean,
yeah, be a
this is
cool
right
card to
there.
pair with a Jackie, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Um So we have a 49 Bowman Robin Roberts rookie PSA 4, and this is a PWCC certified top 15%, sitting at 408. Look at that look.
Yeah, that's a good one. Hall of Fame collectors, that would be their card, right? Robin Roberts is probably low key Hall of Famer, but that's probably the card to have of him.
Yeah, yeah. So cards, as you can tell,
Man.
are selling right now. This Campy just sold for 192. I mean,
That's
look
a
at this
steal.
card. I mean, for a 51
Steal.
Bowman, look at the centering on this.
Look at the
Everything.
color. Look at the
Oh,
color in the upper right, that dark blue. This is one of my favorite cards of all time.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, probably. Can you think of a greater catcher card of all time?
So I love talking about catcher cards. So this one's in the top. This is definitely in the top of all time catcher cards. The other ones that come to my mind are like 71 Thurman Munson is a really good one.
Of course.
The other one I would put in there would be the 1950 Bowman Yogi Berra, where it looks like he's in the park. That's another one that I like a lot. I mean, I love when the catcher cards have the gear and they've got all the stuff. And I think also the 33 Gaudy Gabby Hartnett. That's one that's probably not as good as the others, but this is definitely like top 3 all time catcher card.
Yeah, just throwing the mask off and yeah, absolutely. So it looks like this mantle sold with buyer's premium. It sold for 6,600.
Man,
wow. I got to be honest. I don't think I would have dropped 6,600 on this.
I mean, personally, I would have rather had like a nice 53. I would rather had nice 53 tops. But I mean, I get it, right? It's the rookie card of the greatest player in hobby history, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And before you came on, I don't know if you heard me talking about it. I was trying to figure out why this wouldn't get some sort of qualifier on it. Do you think that they're just like, listen, it's 51 Bowman. This is as good as you're going to get. We won't give them a qualifier?
I don't think you get qualifiers on ones, right? I don't think you can get a 1 OC. Can you?
That's a good question for the chat. Can you get a 1 OC?
I don't think so, because I think it's like usually it means like it's like, it's a 7 except for this, and it's still a 1, so there's nowhere you can go down from there.
Yeah, no, listen, you might be right. You might be right about that. Yeah. So that could be why. So if that's the case, then if that's the case, someone with a 2 qualifier probably would prefer a 1.
Yeah, could be. I mean, this is like in that era. This is what's so cool about low grade cards is that like there's such huge differences between ones, and twos. Cards that are graded like almost exactly the same can just have massive differences in eye appeal. So like the example of this mantle, right? It doesn't have print lines. The registration looks good. That already in and of itself is pretty noteworthy. It's hard to find that on this card. So yeah, it looks like he's, someone fired a gun at him, but still pretty cool card.
Someone fired a gun. Well, luckily they missed, right? And it's not going right through the forehead. So, yeah. So let's refresh this page real quick.
I'm curious if he was still around. Those 53 Jackies were really nice.
Oh, I know. And the 1.5 with such a small gap between the 1.5 and the PSA 3. I hope they're both here, because that just goes to show you that centering is really king. Let's see. Still got a bunch of cards here.
I still got the T206s are still kicking around.
Okay, here's the Jackie, the 1.5, and then right here is the Jackie PSA 3. So, I mean, this one clearly to the right. I mean, this is like 85-15 when it comes to centering right to left. And then you look up here, and this is a much nicer centered, but you could tell that the color difference is huge. So this is much richer quality, much richer color. Which would you prefer in your collection?
I'd have to take a closer look. So what's the issue with the 1.5? Why is it a 1.5? Does it have like back damage or something? 'Cause it looks pretty
I'm
good by my eye.
yeah, from the front,
Could
from
be
the
creasing that you can't really see.
so if it did have back damage, would that change your mind about something?
So I actually okay, some cards I'm okay with back damage on, others not. I'm okay with the T206 with back damage because I don't care that much about the like whatever the tobacco advertisement. But cards like with Jackie Robinson, where I like to read what they said about them in that time, if it had back damage and I couldn't read the little blurb, that would probably be a deal breaker for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So which one, just judging by the face, by the eye appeal, which one would you rather have?
I mean, judging by just these pictures alone, I would say the 1.5. I'm in general a big fan of the 1.5 grade because I feel like that's where PSA stuffs all the cards, all the things that should be ones, but they just look so nice that they can't mark it as a one. So like my 52 Willie Mays that I love is a 1.5, and I think it's a spectacular card. And so I'm all about 1.5. I think that that's a perfect value collector option for sure.
Love it, man. So it looks like this 53 Satchel Paige sold for 1650. I
Oh,
mean, one
pretty.
of the greatest cards in all of sports cards.
Yeah. I mean, I think the artistry in 53 tops is second to none, and this card is special because it tells a story, right? Satchel Paige doesn't have very many cards. There's like the 48, 49 Leaf, which is basically a ghost because it's a short print. Then you've got the 49 Bowman, which is a pretty card. And then you've got this one. And what always has appealed to me about this card is like you can tell that like Satchel's like not a young man. He's not a spring chicken in this card. And just the way that the artist kind of captured the look on his face is kind of like, yeah, I'm near the end of my career, but I've still got another thing. I got a few tricks up my sleeve for these young kids. That's the image conveys to me, and that's why I always think that card is really special.
Yeah. Yeah. No, very well said, man. Very well said. All right. So I'm going to refresh this favorites page and see what pops up.
Oh, there's that 50. There's a 56 mantle that's really pretty
Let me
in this
see.
auction.
There it
Yeah,
is.
that one right
PSA
there.
7
Yeah, that's a
sitting
nice
at
one.
6K. All right. Let's see. Whoo!
Yeah, isn't that nice? I mean, it's the centering is not perfect, but it is a sharp card. It's a really sharp card. And I love that card. I mean, I'm the 1956 Tops guy, right? I've been thinking about that card for 20 years, right? I love that card.
Is this in your mind just because of, Triple Crown, everything? Is this the biggest card in your heart and mind of the 56 top set?
That's a good one. I mean, I feel
Or are
like
we going to go with Jackie?
I feel like I would probably go with the Jackie because I just love that stealing home thing that just knocks it out of the park for me. But as someone who's collected the set, the 56 Mantle is always it's the most expensive card. And yeah, there's the things that I love about it are I love that background image, how he's catching the ball, but the real picture, he didn't catch it, and how you can see in the background that they've like copy pasted some of the people in the stands to make the stands look more full than they were in the real picture. Like I think there's a guy with a tie you can see in multiple places and stuff. And so that card really has a special place in my heart. And I remember the first one I ever bought. I remember opening the package and seeing Mickey Mantle like smiling back at me and thinking, "Oh my god, like do I actually own like a legit 50s mantle?" And I remember buying it raw, and it's just a special card. So for me, there's a lot of emotion that's attached to it that was really like a major milestone in my collecting journey. And that sets it apart from the Jackie, just my personal story. But then, like, just based on the aesthetics and the card itself, I'd put the Jackie above it. But it's a sweet card. I love that
Wow.
one.
Wow. I've never owned a 56 mantle.
You gotta do something about that. You do.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, yes and no.
Hmm.
I think I will at some point in my collecting journey own one, I'm sure.
Hmm.
Um it's probably, if I made a top 20 list, it's probably not even on the top 20.
Hmm.
But an incredible card, like you said.
Yeah, I feel like because the 53 tops, the 52 tops, and the 51 Bowman and the 52 Bowman, they're all really, really pretty expensive cards, and this is like kind of the first early tops one that's a little bit more financially accessible, and that combined with the art, I think makes it a really appealing card for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but big smile, this card has incredible registration, incredible centering.
Hmm.
Everything about this, the color on this card, yeah, easily is a 7. And
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how high it goes. I mean, we're sitting here at 6K right now with buyer's premium. You're going to be at what, 7,200?
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of money.
That's a big. That's more than the 51 Bowman just sold for.
Yeah. I mean, these cards have gone up a lot. I mean, I think about when I first started collecting 56 tops, that was like a $1,500 card, back in the mid 2000s. It just goes to show you the kind of enduring demand for a card like this, right?
Yeah, the set itself, the 56 top set. I mean, obviously, you could write a book on it. Um, I mean, you specifically could write a
Yeah.
book on it, Matthew.
Yeah. I've,
That's
I've,
what,
I've thought about it. I've seriously thought about it.
have you?
Hmm.
Oh,
Just like it would be like introduction to vintage collecting, like with the vehicle being the 56 top set. That would be, I mean, I could go on forever about it. I mean, one thing that I think is so cool about the 56 top set is that, it's the last set that's a non photograph based set. So it's the artwork, right? And so like as the picture in the mantle shows you, the artist can tell you a story that embellishes the truth in a way that makes it more fun and appealing. And I've always really liked that. And it's the only set, right, that contains Mickey, Jackie, and Ted, right,
yeah,
all in one set. It's the only one. And then you've also got Roberto and Hank and Ernie. I mean, it's all of my favorite players in one spot.
so you factor in that along with just how incredible the look is
Mhm.
of the set, and it's like it really is a home run. I think it's for
Yeah.
that reason that 56 tops is just held in such high regard, even without having any huge rookie cards in it. I mean,
Yep.
56 tops is just like everyone loves it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also because there aren't any big rookies in it. It's of the sets to complete. It's one that's kind of a little bit easier.
Yeah.
From the on the wallet perspective. Um, that was one of the reasons that I chose it. It was like kind of like that combination of like players, not a lot of expensive rookies, and the overall aesthetics were the primary reasons why I focused on it.
Yeah.
A little bit of a gateway drug to vintage for sure.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's terrible, but I love it. Orlando says that no, it's a 1. So when we're talking about the PSA 1, because JR Sports Card Chronicle says, yeah, I've never seen a qualifier on a 1. So Matthew, very astute of you. Luke is talking about Luke. What is going on, man? So he has these Jackie Robbins, some cards that are up for sale. I think he's got multiple Jackies, and he says
Mhm.
that it's a crease on that 1.5. It's my
Ah,
card I sold. So yeah, so that
nice
is,
job. Good eye.
yeah, absolutely. And James says Rob has no 56 mantle, but many Shoheis, right? I do not own any
It's called you out,
Otanis.
man.
Yeah, I do not own any Shohei Otanis, that's for sure. But I kind of wish I did, with what he's been doing
Me too.
recently.
Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is too, let me tell you, if he's going to be hands down the biggest guy that could move, right? I mean, as a Yankees fan, I'm just plugged into all the gossip, and
Yeah.
all I'm hearing is like, okay, listen, we're going to make a serious run at Otani or Juan Soto. one of those two. And me
Mhm.
personally, I would love to have Shohei Ohtani.
Oh,
Are you
yeah.
kidding? Could you imagine what a draw he would be?
It would
What a
be
draw he would be. I mean,
insane.
yeah, so you
It would
think
be
about, right,
insane.
like Matt Suey, he was Godzilla. I mean,
Mhm.
in New York, right? That was his nickname, Godzilla. And he Ohtani would be bigger than Matt Suey in New York. I mean, just unbelievable, unbelievable. He would be like the Godzilla. I feel like.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I would love to see Ohtani come to New York, and if so, I would gladly own some Ohtani cards. But but yeah, he's a little too much. So it looks like this mantle has sold, and it ended at 6K, which then bumped it up to 7,200. So there you go.
There you go.
Wow,
Yeah,
this
it's a nice
54 Bowman Maze only sold for 252.
that's a steal. See, 1.5, man. If I were
You're
to tell
right. You are right.
1.5, like, if you're gonna start off like a vintage collection and you're kind of an eye appeal kind of person, you wanna save some money, like, 1.5, it's a great place to be. It's a great place to collect.
Wow. I mean, the eye appeal on that, everything about that maze looks incredible. I cannot believe it just sold for
Yeah,
that low.
that's cool. Yeah, that's a nice card.
I mean, look at the centering. I mean, top to bottom, obviously, it's a little, but right to left, that looks 50-50.
Yeah. I don't have this card, and every time I see it, I'm like, "That's one that I'm gonna get eventually." You know, you see those cards and you're like, "Yeah, it's not for me right now, but I know that's gonna be one that I need." I love that image of Maze.
Me
It's really
too.
cool.
Maze has some incredible images,
He does.
yeah, I think about the 53 when he's grounding, he's just
Kind
out
of
like playing catch and he's
fielding.
grounding the
Mhm.
ball. Um, so yeah, he's got some. I mean, I think the 53 and the 54, the 53 is probably the best image of him, I think, on a card. But,
Mm.
um,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, he's got some really good ones. I like his 52 Bowman. I think his 52 Bowman is a really nice card.
absolutely,
It's got, like, this guy
absolutely.
behind him and stuff. It's cool.
And the 52 Bowman too is it's like I almost feel like it's a forgotten about
It is.
maze. Like no one talks about the 52 Bowman maze.
Yeah. I feel like 52 Bowman in general is kind of, like, low key awesome because there's
Definitely.
some really cool cards in that set, and I mean, the mantle is pretty inexpensive compared to, like, even, like, a 53 Topps mantle. It's a really cool image of him in the dugout. I know that if I that's a set I've thought about making a few different times.
52 Bowman.
Yeah, yeah.
So this Charlie O'Leary right here, PSA 8 is still going. It's at
Mhm.
3,800 right now. 3,800.
Yeah, it's those registry, man.
I mean, a beautiful card though. I
Yeah,
mean,
no doubt. I mean, how many people can say they have a card that old from a set that famous in a condition that high, right?
that right there is really checks off the three boxes for I think most vintage collectors, right? Just,
Yeah,
old, historic, that's one. The set, that's
yeah,
two, and then three, the grade. Well, and we know it's more about eye appeal than
yeah.
the grade, but I mean,
But
but
still,
those three boxes right there, I mean, talk about whew.
it's not like in 10 years people are gonna be like, "Yeah, T206 isn't very cool." Like, T206 will always be, one of the, like, premier sets in the hobby, like, no doubt about it. So, I feel like, yeah, you're not gonna, like, 10x your money, but I think it's a pretty I don't wanna give people financial advice, but I feel like if you're putting your cards in the money, there's a worse places that you can put it than T206.
Yeah, agreed. And I feel like there's so much chatter too. And I try not to bring up the M word too often on here. But with modern, there's so
Mhm,
much chatter, and people are always like, "Well, what's going to be the next PMG? What's going to
mhm,
be the next?" And everyone just wants to like speculate on what's going to be the next, what's going to be the next. And that just goes back into prospecting because now it's like they're not even prospecting players or prospecting sports, but they're prospecting card sets now and insert
mhm.
sets. And I don't know if anything will ever be, the next, it's kind of like, what's going to be the next 1952 tops? It's like,
Yeah.
good luck figuring that out. If you're truly trying to, like, if you're curious about that, good luck.
Yeah. I mean, I always think about like, you know, there's no way to predict how this stuff is going to shake out. So the best thing you can do is just get stuff that appeals to you and then work under the assumption that, if you're probably not the only one that finds this particular thing special or not, right? But yeah, I mean, these sets like T206, 48, 49 Leaf, 51 Bowman, 52 Tops, right? 33 Gaudy, 1914 Cracker Jack, right? These are the history of the hobby. If you wanted to tell the history of the hobby, you couldn't tell it without talking about those vintage sets because they're landmarks, each in their own different way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Matthew, feel free to log off at any time. I know you said you had about an hour, so um, feel free, man.
Yeah, yeah, I'll probably bounce out of here in about a minute or two. Let's see what do we have left.
So let's see what we have going on left. So we have this mantle post serial
Mm.
61 mantle SGC 6. This is at 155 right now. So I'm at a card show yesterday in Plainville, Connecticut, and there's a guy I know, a dealer I know. I actually have picked up a couple cards from him. I picked up my signed Gretzky rookie from him like 6 months back. He had, and I have George Mikan Wheaties card, but so I have the Wheaties card, but he had the Wheaties box
Oh,
completely like
cool.
in one piece. Wheaties box, George Mikan, PSA 9. He
Holy
had a
cow.
PSA 9. I know, and I was shocked at how little it's going for. I looked up just to see what the last comp on something like that was. No, he has a PSA 8, I think, and a PSA 9 had just sold for like 3K or something like that. I thought for sure it would have been more than that, but to see a one-piece cereal box, I was pretty surprised about. So yeah, here's a 61 post serial Mickey Mantle. Obviously this is a hand
Mhm.
cut card. And yeah, so it's one of those things. I think if you're a mantle collector, or
Yeah.
you're just looking for something that's inexpensive of mantle, during his prime, I mean, this is probably a pretty cool card.
Yeah, and there are people that do like the food sets, right? There's all these random food sets from around this area with
Potato
like
chip.
hot dogs and potato chips and dog food,
Yep.
right? And all this stuff. And yeah, I mean, I remember seeing on like the Net 54 boards, like people talking about these like post serial, like complete strips and all of this stuff. It's people really get into this. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We have a 61 tops Roberto Clemente. Look at the centering on this.
Yeah, that's a nice card. Also, a cool image of him
Oh
kind
yeah.
of staring off to the side.
Yeah. Yep,
Yeah,
and that's
really cool.
BVG 6.5 sitting at 220, and then it looks like as far as active posts, that's about it. This
Yep.
old Judge card went for 156 when all was said and done. I don't own any old Judge cards. Do you own any old Judge, or have you ever?
Nope, T206 is the oldest I have. Haven't gone earlier than that yet.
I saw this and I was like, "Do I want to put a bid on it just to own an old Judge card?" But
Yeah.
did not. And the thing is too, that's a slippery slope. If you start looking at cards like that, there's plenty of times I almost dropped $1,000 on a 1914 Cracker Jack card because it had really cool, like sugar stains on it, and I'm like, "Oh, I want this." It's like, well, I have no connection to this player. I don't
Yeah.
I barely know who this player is. So it is a slippery slope to go down when you start looking at like, oh, let me check that box. Okay, now
Mm.
I own that.
Yep. Yeah, you gotta be a little bit strategic in that sense. All
Yeah.
right, well, I think I'm gonna bounce out of here. It was really fun
Matthew,
hanging out with you, Rob.
pleasure, man. Thank you so much for coming on, man. The door's always open for you.
Ah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the auction tonight.
All right, man. All right. So that was Matthew, man. Good friend of the show, all that good stuff. So it was good to have him there. So let's refresh this page, see what else is still available, see what's going on. It is 10:55 East Coast time right now. So the auction officially began about 25 minutes ago. So it's usually close to right now to where really everything starts kind of flying off the shelf and there's not much left that's active. So we're going to see. So we still have some of these older cards that are here. We have all the T206s are gone. It jumps right to the 61 post serial Mickey Mantle card. And yeah, it looks like that is it. We have the Roberto Clemente that sold for $264. Guys, if there's anything out there that is still active that you want me to pull up, please let me know. Definitely let me know. I would love to see what else is out there, because right now I basically just have it as my favorites. So really just the things that I was um that I had kind of pre-planned to pull up already. So I'm going to go right now and I'm going to check all, and I'm going to just kind of get an idea of everything that is out there, everything that's still available. We'll see. So let's sort by earliest year. And now we're going to kind of get an idea of everything that's out there, everything that's still available. All right, so we have a 1882. This is the PSA altered Cossack and Company Batsman card. This is still available, sitting at 170. 1948 Turf Footballers Tom Finney rookie. That's sitting at $82 right now. We have some Pokemon. Look at this, and it basically just jumps to modern at this point. Yeah, basically just jumps to modern. And that's it. There is almost nothing left. Almost nothing left. Let me see. I'm going to click all items and see what happens, because I just clicked flash items right there. So I love just kind of scrolling around and doing exactly this and seeing what's out there, seeing what items are still active, what items I missed. Look at this. Winston Churchill, 1901 Winston Churchill. We have an 1889 N189 WS Kimball and Company, sitting at $62 right there. So we have some T206 still available. We have a Charlie Chaplin SGC 2.5 that's sitting here. Let me see. We have some soccer or football. A coin from 1928. Oh, look at that beauty. Albert Einstein, 1928. This is a PSA 5. Pop 1 of 1, just 2 graded higher. Wow. I have my SGC 2 sitting right behind me of this Albert Einstein card. It's a great card. I love looking through these older cards, because this is showing everything. This is showing whether if it's pop culture, soccer, boxing, all contact sports, all of that. I'm going to make the screen bigger so you can see the cards better. Marilyn Monroe. I would assume that's a tobacco card, but it almost looks like it might be hand cut. I don't know. I could be wrong. This sitting at $43. Here's a nice Pele card. A soccer goat. PSA 2 that's sitting at $350. A raw Willie Mays 59 tops. '61 post serial Mickey Mantle SGC 6, hanging in there at $155 right now. So I'm pretty sure a bunch of these just sold because we just hit 11 o'clock on the East Coast. So we hit the hour on the hour mark. So that means that these auctions are going to be going a lot quicker. So these cards are going to be selling a lot quicker than they've been. Now we're down to 30 seconds. So you have 30 seconds in between rounds. Here's another Marilyn Monroe card. '63 Topps Eddie Matthews, PSA 8. Look at the centering on this card. This is a beautiful card. Looks like that just sold. Looks like a lot of these. See, 30 seconds. Look at this Beatles card, Mr. Softy Beatles card. Just sold. Sandy Koufax, 64 Topps. PSA 6 with the stain qualifier. So the stain must be on the back because I do not see the stain here. Some more soccer or football, if you will. Let's see what's on this next page. Guys, if anyone is going to be at the National, please, I would love to have you guys stop by my booth. I'm going to be at the National from all day Thursday, all day Friday, all day Saturday. So I'm going to be set up right next to the corporate booths. Why I'm in the corporate booths, don't ask. But I'm going to be set up right near the corporate booths, and my booth number is 2117. 2117. So I'm right next to where the concession is, right next to where corporate is. So can't miss me. 2117. Hopefully I can see you guys, meet some of you in person. Speaking of Ben McDonald, holy moly, what are the chances of this? Let's see. Now we're in the 90s looking at some of this stuff. Here are those PMGs that we were talking about. Not that we were talking about PMGs, but with a lot of modern collectors or investors asking what's going to be the next PMG. So all right. So I guess that's about it. I'll refresh, go back to the first page, see if there's anything out there that's worth talking about that's still available, and maybe we could chat for a few minutes before we wrap it up. Wow. Look at this. 1888 R&S Artistic Series Baseball, Baltimore. And this is a PSA 6. This is still hanging in there at 210. Who is bidding on this card? I would love to know. Is it a set builder? Is it a Baltimore fan? Is it like me, someone that just wants like the oldest possible card in the auction, things like that? I'd be curious to know. This Willie Mays is still available too. This raw Willie Mays. It's definitely not centered right to left. It looks like it's probably 85-15 if I had to really break down how centered it is. But top to bottom, it looks a little bit better. It looks 60-40 top to bottom. But, you know, the color looks good. The registration looks good. So this is at 210, a raw card. So I'm curious. I would imagine someone that's buying this is either a Maze collector or they're thinking about buying it and then getting it graded and hoping it grades out to where they can make some money. It's the only thing I can really think of. Next, we still have this Sandy Koufax that's sitting here. I mean, great eye appeal on this Sandy Koufax. This is a PSA 6 with the stain qualifier, and this is sitting at 110 right now. Great image of Sandy. It looks like this Willie Mays raw card sold. This sold for $252 out the door. That's a It's a good looking 59 tops. So congratulations to whoever bought that. The Sandy Koufax still going strong right here. Still going strong 35 minutes into the auction. 35 minutes into the auction. So we will see where this ends. This is a PSA 6 with the stain qualifier. Orlando says, "Good night, Rob. I'll be showing some of my collection tomorrow on Junk Wax Hero channel." Orlando, I look forward to it, man. Absolutely. James says, "Let's go 50-50 in on that Marilyn Monroe." And he says, "Congrats on the maze, whomever it was." I agree, James. I agree. So let's see. Did the Sandy sell? I think the Sandy finally sold for 132. 132. So we're going to refresh this page and see who is still hanging on and what is still hanging on. I'm assuming I won a couple of Eli Manning cards in this auction tonight. I'm not sure. I'm not certain, but I know I was the high bidder, and I know that I definitely put in a pretty high over the current value of what it was going for. So we'll see. Beautiful. Looks like I did. All right. Yeah, looks like we're into modern now. That's where we're at. Wow, look at this Justin Verlander. It's a gold, but it's out of 2005. So there's 2,000 of these. It's a PSA 10, but it sold for 2,100. It's kind of surprising because typically we're not really seeing pitchers sell for that kind of price. Oh wow! And then there's items here that are just straight up unsold. I'm curious, does anyone own any of these types of dollar bills, these graded currency? I know there's a lot of coin collectors out there, some dollar bill collectors and whatnot, but I'm curious. All right. Yeah, so I think that's about it. That's about it for the auction. It was a good auction. It was a lot of Mickey Mantles that were up there. I feel like it was probably a Mickey Mantle collector that was maybe looking to liquidate some of his collection. You know, I saw the 53 tops, 56 tops. There were other mantles I didn't even put in there. There was an autograph 55 Bowman that was in there. I'm curious what that sold for. There was the post cereal, Mickey Mantle. So there were a decent amount of mantles in there. James says, "I inherited coins." So he inherited some coins, but nothing like on the screen. I'm curious if you will get Shohei cards soon. James, you are obsessed with that, man. I have no idea. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, I guess that's about it. I know I'm just really looking forward to the National. If you are going to the National, once again, I would love to meet you, love to see you in person. Feel free to stop by my booth. Also, I'm going to be I'm putting together I've already organized and put together a trade night with some fellow collectors, some close friends of mine in the hobby. We call ourselves the Wolf Pack. So we have the Wolf Pack trade night. That's going to be Friday night at the National in a hotel directly across the street from the convention center. So hopefully, hopefully if you're there, you guys can stop by there and hang out. It's probably going to be nuts. It's probably going to be mobbed, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast. I can't wait. I'm like a little kid just thinking about the National, thinking about everything that is on the horizon, and it's going to be a huge letdown. I could already see it. It's going to be a huge letdown once the National's over, but luckily this hobby is much more than just a single 1 week event. This hobby is 365, and even an extra day on leap year. So, it's I love it, and I love talking with you guys, and I appreciate all of you guys for stopping in here every single week and watching and commenting and all that good stuff. So I guess that's it. The auction, there's not much left of the auction at all. Everything's been sold. So, I guess that's about it. I'm flying solo here on this last part of the show, so I will wrap it up a few minutes early. So don't forget, guys, Sports Card Therapist. I'm doing this every Sunday night for PWCC. Also, I have my podcast, Sports Card Therapist Podcast. You can go to my YouTube channel. I'm dropping new episodes 2, sometimes 3 times a week on YouTube, especially. I'm always going live, and I'm doing spur of the moment things. Um, so if you can, please subscribe, hit that notification bell, all that stuff. And I guess that's it. So once again, guys, thank you very much for staying. Thank you for hanging out. And I guess that's it. And don't forget, guys, take care of yourselves and your collections. Have a good one.